Hello, it's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you. Thank you very much for coming. You know my name, Michael Rosen, and I was going to tell you some things today, maybe some things that you already know, maybe some things that you don't. And what I wanted to do was to tell you a little bit about writing them, how it is that I came to write them, whether they're very serious or whether they're a bit funny, how it is in order to give you some ideas of how to write yourselves. I know that there you are in secondary schools, and sometimes it is a bit difficult. You're asked to write something. And so I was going to tell you a little bit about it. So where I was going to start was my own family. My own family was sometimes very funny, and some of you may have seen some videos of me talking about my family. But also it was a family with mysteries. Maybe all families have something mysterious, something a bit odd, something that you don't quite understand or know about. So I was going to begin there and tell you about something that happened to me when me and my brother, we were going through the old photos. You know, maybe, I don't know how you've got photos in your house. Maybe they're on the computer, maybe they're in albums. Well, in my case, in our house, we had a great big box, and they were all jumbled up with black and white photographs. Yes, I am that old. All black and white photographs, all piled up. And every now and then, me and my brother and my mum and my dad, we'd pull them out one at a time. So you've got to imagine now I'm about 11 years old, and my brother is about 15 years old, and this is how it went. Okay, so it's called Going Through the Old Photos. Me, my dad, and my brother, we were looking through the old photos. Pictures of my dad with a broken leg, my mum with big flappy shorts on, and me on a tricycle. When we got to one of my mum with a baby on her knee, and I say, "Is that me or Brian?" That's my brother's name. "Is that me or Brian?" And my dad says, "Let's have a look. Let's have a look." "It isn't you or Brian," he says. "It's Alan. He died. He would have been 2 years younger than Brian and 2 years older than you. He was a lovely baby. How did he die?" "Whooping cough. I was away at the time in the army. He coughed himself to death in Connie's arms." That's my mum. "He coughed himself to death in Connie's arms. The terrible thing is it wouldn't happen today, but it was during the war, you see, and they didn't have the medicines. That must be the only photo of him we've got." Me and Brian looked at the photo. We couldn't say anything. It was the first time we had ever heard of Alan. For a moment, I felt ashamed, like as if I'd done something wrong. I looked at the baby, trying to work out who he looked like. I wanted to know what another brother would have been like. No way of saying. And Mum, she looked so happy. Of course, she didn't know when they took the photo that he would die, did she? Funny thing is, though my father mentioned it every now and then over the years, Mum never. And he never said anything about it in front of her. And we never let on that we knew. What I've never figured out was whether her silence was because she was more upset about it than my dad, or less. So there's a true story, something that happened, and a way of writing about it. It's a little bit like writing a report or a newspaper report, where you write down everything that happened, and then you put in it the things that you felt at the time. And if you want to, if you don't know what you feel about it, or you don't know what your feelings were then, you can just leave it hanging in the air, because poems are like that. You don't have to finish, like a story, you always have to kind of finish it off, don't you? It all has to finish either happily ever after, or, I don't know, something's happened to them and it's all nicely tidied up. With a poem, you can just leave it hanging in the air, because you don't know. And I still don't know. Who was more upset about it, my dad or my mum? Maybe you've got an idea yourself, because that's another thing about when you write. You can leave the person who's reading it or hearing it to make up their mind. And so I don't know. I don't know who was more upset about it. So there we are. That was one mystery. Now here's another mystery. So this is something that happened all the time when I was a kid. Every now and then, my dad would say, I had 2 French uncles. They were in France at the beginning of the war. They weren't there at the end. What happened to them, we'd say? Don't know. He'd say, all I know is that they were there at the beginning of the war and they weren't there at the end. How could he have left it like that, hanging in the air? How come he didn't know? Of course, this was all before the days of mobile phones and the internet. And, you know, if you wanted to find something out, you went to the library, or maybe if you went to France, but, you know, you didn't fly to France when I was a kid. You went by boat. So what happened to these 2 French uncles, my dad's uncles? Well, I've spent the last 20 years trying to find out. And it is awful and horrible. And I've written a bit about it, and I was just going to share it with you as another way of writing when you find out things, and in a way you're kind of shocked by them. And so I'll just share this with you. So the first uncle is called Oscar. His name is Oscar, and he was married to a woman called Rachel. Now, my family is Jewish, and if you know anything about the war and just before it, Jewish people were persecuted, but not only persecuted, there was this idea that came to the Nazis that all Jews should be exterminated. That means killed. I mean, it's beyond imagination. But there, just across the channel, the English Channel, were my father's uncles in France when the Nazis invaded. So as I say, bit by bit by bit, I've managed to piece it together. So I want you to imagine 2 people, Oscar and Rachel, and they're married, and they're living because they fled to a place in western France. And then bit by bit, things get horrible. First of all, they have everything that they own taken away from them, because that was the law. Everything they own is taken away from them. And then the government decides that they should walk about with a yellow star. They have to wear a yellow star because they're Jewish. So they're walking around like that, and they're beginning to think that this is getting more and more dangerous. And then they hear that there's a safe place to go to. It's the city of Nice. You may have heard of it. Beautiful city, beautiful tourist city. But at this time, it was being occupied by the Italians. And they've heard that the Jews are safe if they go to Nice. And somehow or another, they flee from Western France all the way over to the other side to Nice. And there's a man there, he's helping the Jews. What he's doing, he's got hold of 4 boats, and he's going to send these boats over to North Africa where it's going to be safe. And so that's what he's getting them ready. And the Italians have got the old hotels where all the posh people used to go, but of course it's during the war. And he says, you stay there, you go in those hotels, and I'll get these boats going. But at that moment, that very, very moment, the Italians got defeated by, as it happens, the British and the Americans. So if the Italians get defeated and beaten in the battle, what does that mean? It means that the Nazis walk into that part of France. And there is Oscar and Rachel and 30,000 other Jews thinking they're going to be safe, sitting there, waiting and thinking, we're all right, we're okay. But they aren't, because the Nazis walk in. And at that moment, they're rounded up and sent off on a train to Paris, and then from Paris to a terrible place, a terrible, terrible place. It's actually called, we call it either a concentration camp or an extermination camp, and they were killed there. And they were taken, when they were taken in what's called a cattle truck. And when people say that, that really is a cattle truck. That's a truck that was meant, a whole train made up of trucks to carry people, but they were originally to carry cattle. Yes, that's right. You know cattle. Some of you see them in the fields all around here. That's what that train was for. And they were put on the 62nd train. In the end, there were more than 70 of them, but they were put on the 62nd train to go to this horrible place called Auschwitz. And here now is another way of writing. It's when you imagine what it is like for somebody else. So you can imagine what it's like for anybody in your family. Maybe some people in your family have been through tough times or funny times or great times. And then you can imagine what it's like, and you can ask them questions in a poem. It seems weird, but you can ask someone questions even though they're not there. or even though they might be dead for 30 years or 50 years or whatever, because you can do that in poems. And so here's me talking to Oscar himself, sitting in that cattle truck. What did you think as you and Rachel sat on the floor of the cattle truck as it left Paris? Did you think of the watches and clocks you had mended? Because that's what he was. He was a watch mender. Did you think of the watches and clocks you had mended? Did you think of the tiny springs and wheels, you with your magnifying glass in your eye, poring over the works so that a monsieur or a madame could tell the time correct to the exact second? Did you think of the smell of the sea and the push of a boat against the waves, how you and Rachel would stand on the deck, the wind in your faces as you sailed away? Did you look through the gaps in the slats on the side of the truck? Did you see farmers in fields, women selling clothes in a market? Did you call out? Did you push your hands through the gaps? Did the night come creeping in? Did you see a light from a window where people sat and ate their evening meal? Did you see in the dark the horror on Rachel's face? Did she see horror on yours? Did you shut her eyes? Did she shut yours? Thinking of children who shut their eyes to make the world go away. And then behind your eyelids, did you think of the cattle that had once stood in the truck as they were taken away to the slaughterhouse? So there's a poem that I've written for these lost uncles and aunts, the other one I won't tell you about, but you can write poems for people who've gone, and it's very important for me to write to them and for them because they were nameless and gone and invisible, so invisible that my dad didn't even know what had happened to them. He died 10 years ago. I never really got a chance to tell him because I found out most of this stuff since he's died. So it's been very important for me to be able to find that stuff and then to be able to somehow tell it. And if you can find important things to talk about, they might seem silly or trivial or unknown and you're a bit mysterious, like I've said. See, that poem is just made up of questions. I haven't even got answers for them. And you can write like that as well. So there's an example of different ways to write, if you like. But of course, as you know, I do write in other ways. I mean, when I turn up in schools, sometimes people say, particularly people a bit younger than you, and they look at me and they go, "You're so old." Blimey. No, I mean, you really are old. And I go, "Yeah, okay. And I go, no, I mean, no, really old. Because we thought you were a bit younger than that. And I then have to explain to them, well, I was born in the Stone Age. No, I was born in the Stone Age. Some of you may have seen, you've got a timeline at school, when maybe we're at primary school, and it begins with the Stone Age. And there's like a picture of a pile of stones just to prove it. That is the Stone Age. And then there's a line, and then there's the next age, the plastic age, I think it is, or something. Anyway, but in the Stone Age, when I was alive, that's what we had. We just had rocks and stones. I mean, you didn't have chairs or anything. You just sat on a rock like that. Mom, really hurts. Oh, Mom, my bum, all down there. It's really hurt. Shush. She'd say, shush, it's not the chair age yet. How does she know? And then you didn't have a table or anything like that. You had a great big rock sitting there. And then we didn't eat. That's what we ate. We just ate stones and gravel, pebbles, little splinters of rock and that sort of stuff. Ah! That really hurts. That really hurts. Shush. Eat your gravel. Come on. And then we didn't have a telly. What? How did we live? No telly? How did we live? No, all we had was a rock in the corner of the room. We just sat there looking at the rock. What are you doing? Watching the rock. And that wasn't Dwayne Johnson. Yeah, no, forget that. Mum, what's on the rock tonight? And Mum had this really bad joke. She'd go out and get rock, put it on the rock, and then say the rock's on the rock. It's not funny. And then you go to school, exactly the same thing. You just sat on a rock. There was just no tables or desks or anything like that. And there was a big window down the side, no glass in it. So you'd be sitting there and the wind would like that. Miss, it's really windy. Shush, that's why it's called a window. And you just wrote on a rock, you know. Miss used to say, take out your rock. We couldn't speak. And then you go home, go to bed, lie on a rock. Mom, it really hurts, I can't sleep. Shush, it's not the bed age yet. And then the Stone Age came to an end. And if you look at that frieze, you'll see there's this line. And that's exactly how it was. We were walking about like this, and suddenly, this line came down. That's the way it was, you know. We're just walking around. Actually, can you do that? Get your hand ready. 1, 2, 3. Exactly. And then you had to step through the line. Way! Wow, it's the end of the Stone Age, man. Wow, where are we now? And there were quite a lot, we'd been walking around in bare feet up until now. There were quite a few socks lying about, so I thought it was the socks age. I said to my friends, is it the socks age now? Yeah, that's the way it was. It was amazing. That's right. And then went into school and we had a new teacher, and she was so strict. I mean, it was quite easy in the Stone Age, but this new teacher was so strict. And I really mean strict, okay? You weren't allowed to breathe. No, this is true. You weren't allowed to breathe in her lessons. You'd come in first thing in the morning and she'd say, no breathing. And you had to get all the way from morning play to break time without breathing. No breathing. The weak ones just used to keel over and die. You'd hear them going down at the back of the class. Ki-boom, ki-boom, ki-boom. And there was always a whiny kid going, me, can we go and do some breathing? And she'd say, no, you've got all playtime to do it in. Oh, go on, miss, oh, go on. A little whingy bit there. Oh, go on, miss, oh, go on. No. Do you know, at the beginning of the week, there were 48 kids in my class. At the end of the week, there was only 5 of us left. At the end of the day, you'd be stepping over kids just to get out the room. Oh, no. There's Melanie. That's a shame. It's really nice. I used to like Melanie. There's Dave. Hard luck, Dave. Always knew you were a bit weak, Dave. That wasn't very nice of me. That wasn't very nice of me. People say to me, Michael Rosen, because that's what people seem to call me, Michael Rosen, that can't be true. It can't be true, because if it was true, you wouldn't be here now today. And I say, yes, you've forgotten something. Back at the end of the Stone Age into the New Age, we had desks with lids. And you could lift the lid and snatch quick breaths underneath. And Miss wouldn't know anything at all about it. Like that. Like that. So once more, from the beginning, we know how it goes. You can join in. 1, 2, 3. No breathing. The weak ones. Boom, boom, boom. The whiny kid. Me, can I go and do some breathing? No, you've got all playtime to do it in. Extra whingy bit. Oh, go on, miss. Oh, go on. No. Us lot with the desk lids. Hold that breath. Make sure nobody's looking. Boom. Out. You slam the desk lid down. Out. School prison. There was a school prison underneath the school hall where they used to string us up from the wall bars. Miss, been up here for 3 weeks. And there's rats. And they're nibbling my toenails, miss. So I figured it out. If I wanted to survive, then the way to do it was to let that desk lid down very, 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 very slowly and quietly. Once more, from the beginning, all the way through. We know how it goes. Miss says, no breathing. The weak ones. Kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. The whiny kid. Miss, could I go and do some breathing? No, you've got all playtime to do it in. Extra whingy bit. Oh, go on, miss. Oh, go on. No. The other lot with their desk lids, hold that breath. Do the looking bit. Boom. Out. School prison. Miss, I've been up here for... And they're nibbling my... Me, thumb round the edge of the desk lid. Hold that breath. Make sure nobody's looking. And then really quietly, no noise at all. And that was the way to, that was the way to, that was the way to. And it's why I'm here today. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, that's nice. So, I don't need to tell you, I sometimes have to explain to people a bit younger than you that's not actually true. So what is it? If it's not true, what is it? The answer is it's exaggeration. And if you want a posh word for exaggeration, a lovely Greek word, the Greek word is hyperbole. Can you say that? Oh, I love it. I love hearing that word. I love it. So, anything that's bothering you, anything at all that happens, that's a wonderful way to write. So let's say you've got a bit of a tummy ache, you've got a little bit of a bellyache, and maybe your mum's not noticing very much. And you're going, Mum, I've got a bit of a bellyache. And she's carrying on. Mum, no, I really have. I've got a bellyache. Mum. And maybe actually you haven't. Yeah, no, Mum, I got a bellyache, and my stomach's just fallen off. She carries on. No, Mum, look. There's my belly over there, look. Look, and it's all bleeding. Look, it's bobbling along the floor there, look. You can tell it really hurts, look. What? Yeah, no, look, listen. You see, hyperbole. You can do anything at all. You know, I can't believe any of you, for example, have ever not managed to go to school for some reason. No, good, I've cleared that up. Well, you know, if ever you want... No, I won't go there. But anyway, so you can take any situation and you can exaggerate it. And then, if you want to call it a posh name, you can call it... Lovely, very good. So there we are. It was the end of the Stone Age. Oh, and yeah, the end of the Stone Age, they took the rock out. Yeah, no, they took the rock out and we got a telly. Hey! Yeah, two guys came in with a telly like this. You know, they always spit, those blokes, don't they? Yeah, careful how you put it down. Yeah, easy, easy. Get your thumbs out. The telly was enormous. It was this big. It's incredible. But the screen was just this big. So the telly was like a wardrobe, but the screen was just like a sandwich. And I've got to tell you something. It wasn't in colour. It was... No. They hadn't invented black and white yet. It was grey and grey. But it was amazing. I mean, all you could see were these like grey smudges going to and fro. But we thought it was wonderful. You remember how we used to watch The Rock? Like that. Well, now with these grey smudges, we used to watch it like this. And I had a favourite programme. And my favourite programme was The Lone Ranger. Oh, yes, I loved this. The Lone Ranger was like a cowboy thing. And he had a white horse called, what was he called? Silver. Yes, his horse was called Silver. And I used to dash home from school to see this. And it always began with a piece of music. The piece of music went... And then the voice said, The Lone Ranger. A little bit more music. And then a light grey smudge went across the screen. That was the horse. And the voice said, with a mighty cry of, Hi-ho, Silver! And then the Lone Ranger came on, and he had a mask. Oh, we loved the Lone Ranger in his mask. We always wondered, what did he look like? We couldn't tell. He was behind his mask. And then he did all sorts of good deeds. This is me doing good deeds. Good deeds, good deeds. And then the Lone Ranger went away. And there were two people left. And one of them said, Who was that man? And the other person said, That was the Lone Ranger. Cue music. Right, we're going to do it. Okay, first of all, be the guys bringing in the wardrobe. Well, the telly. Here we go. Not like you're going to the toilet, no. Mind your fingers. And draw the telly, the wardrobe. Draw the screen. Draw the grey smudges. Cue music. He says, the Lone Ranger. A little bit more music. Light grey smudge. With a mighty cry of hi-ho, silver, enter the Lone Ranger. Get your mask ready. We used to do this at school. We used to walk around. Lone Ranger. Do lots of good deeds. Good deeds over here. Good deeds over there. And then go. And you're left with two people. And the first one does the look. Who was that man? And the other one does the look and says with me, that was the Lone Ranger. Cue music. Yeah, hooray! Lovely, well done. When I was a boy, I thought that my dad knew everything. No, I really did. I thought he knew absolutely everything. You know, if I might be standing in the street and a bus would go past and I'd say, Dad, what's that? And it was a bus, you see, a bus would go past. I said, Dad, what's that? And my dad would go, son, that's a bus. And I remember thinking, wow, my dad knows. Hang on a minute, Dad, you said that's a bus. There's some round things on the bottom and they're going round as the bus is going along. What are they? Yeah, I know, but you weren't there at the time to tell me. It was just me and my dad on the street. I'll try that again. So, Dad, what are those things? And my dad said, son, those are wheels. And I thought, you know what I thought? Wow, my dad knows. Hang on a minute, Dad, you said those things are wheels, but how many are there? It's quite a small bus. How many are there? And my dad said, son, there are 4. And I thought, wow, my dad knows. But then came a terrible day when I found out that my dad does not know everything. How did I find out? And I think some of you may know this. We sit down to eat. We sit down to eat, and the potato's a bit hot. The potato's a bit hot. So I only put a little bit on my fork and I blow. You could join in. Till it's cool, just cool, into the mouth. Nice. And there's my brother, he's doing the same. Till it's cool, just cool, into the mouth. Nice. And there's my mum, she's doing the same. Yes, I did come from that sort of a home. Here we go. Till it's cool, just cool, into the mouth. Nice. But my dad, what does he do? He stuffs a great big chunk of potato into his mouth, and that really does it. His eyes pop out. He blows, he puffs, he yells, he bobs his head up and down. He even spits bits of potato onto the plate. And he turns to us and he says, watch out, everybody, the potato's really hot. Did we know the potato was hot? Did he know the potato was hot? That was the day I found out that my dad does not know everything. Exactly. And some of you, as I can see, seem to know that. That's right. And you know that because my son, Joe, he filmed me. So you never know what happens in life. There you are at your age. When I knew my Joe, obviously I knew him, but when my Joe was your age, he didn't seem to be interested in very much at all. I hope if he's watching, he doesn't mind me saying this. He spent quite a lot of effort growing his hair, actually, as I remember, and it came right the way down in front of his face. And it was quite difficult to talk to him because you'd say, hi, Joe, and he'd go, yeah. And every now and then I might say, is it okay? Can we open the curtains? I shouldn't have said that. That was rude, and I shouldn't have said that. Okay to open the curtains? No, don't say it again. Anyway, and now there he is. He's a wonderful person who's making, well, he was wonderful then, but making films and filming me going, oh, nice, exactly. So he's to blame. He's to blame. But, serious point, and I'll finish on this before we have questions. The way that little thing works is just through repetition. That is your most powerful, if you like, writing thingy, your writing tool, your writing weapon, if you like, whatever it is that you need, your little trick that when you write, repetition, repeating things, gives you a rhythm, gives you a shape, and it's a way that when you write a poem, or even actually in a story, that people somehow or other feel they're part of the story. And you can repeat anything to make a rhythm. You can do it with your own name. Michael Rosen, Michael Rosen, Michael Rosen. So that's got a beat. That's two stress. It goes stress, unstress, stress, unstress. Michael Rosen. And if you're doing that on a drum or a bass or even on the piano, you'll be going boom, cha, boom, cha. And that's one of the basic rhythms in poetry. Humpty Dumpty. You see, that's a basic rhythm in poetry. And sometimes poets, sometimes they turn it round the other way. And it goes tum, tum. And who was the most famous writer ever to write that way? William Shakespeare. He wrote in a rhythm that went today, 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 today. That's how he wrote, just doing that over and over again. Cha-chum, cha-chum, cha-chum. To be or not to be. That's how he wrote. So these little rhythms that can start with your name, you can build it up to make poems, and then when you repeat it, exactly, you can make poems. So that's how it is. Now, there's time for questions, so I'd be very interested. So if we could bring the lights up, I'm very keen to be able to answer questions. Oh, look at you. Oh, lovely people. Hello. Way. Look, that's lovely. Right, so man in Viz jacket comes round, hands microphone to somebody. I will hear your question. Nice and quiet, please, so I can hear the question.
How did you become so funny?
I blame my brother, because I used to share a bedroom with my brother, and my brother was brilliant at imitating my dad. So my dad, I'll give you one example. My dad, if he wanted you to be quiet, he didn't say shush, he didn't say be quiet, he didn't say anything like that. If he wanted you to be quiet, he'd go like this. So we're making a noise, and in the middle of it all, my dad would go, the noise. That's all he did, just like that. Sometimes a little bit higher, actually. The noise, like that. So me and my brother, we'd be in the bedroom, way, chucking pillows at each other. In the middle of it, my brother would go, the noise. Or he had a sort of, hyperbole. He had a hyperbolic way of doing it. So we're making a noise in the middle of it, or you go, the noise, like that. So when do you do, he worked it up as a kind of act. So when do you do an act like that? Well, it was obvious. Breakfast. No, because my dad, he couldn't stand any, this is way back in the 50s, my dad, he couldn't stand any noise at breakfast, you know. He'd come down to breakfast, and he'd trudge in, he'd plonk himself down, open up the newspaper. I said, it just disappeared, actually. 1 minute you had a dad, and the next minute all you had was a newspaper, you know. And he'd just be behind it, apart from one thing, his hand. His hand used to come out from behind the newspaper, head across the table, and the hand always knew where the coffee cup was. It would just go like that, and then go back behind the newspaper. Me and my brother, we used to stare at the hand. And there you go. And you know what my brother did one morning? He goes, I'm going to borrow the coffee cup. And he goes, my dad, hand. What have you two done with it? And he goes back behind the newspaper, and my brother's going. And then, I don't know whether this ever happens to you, a little voice came into my head. A little voice, in fact, it's always a great thing to write about. A little voice came into my head and said, you know what you could do now? What? You could play drums on the side of the table. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that because it would make a great big noise. And you know what the old man does? He goes, yeah, but you know you want to. I might want to, but I'm not going to do it. Yeah, no, it says the little voice. You could take a knife and fork and you could go. Yeah, no, it's really good fun, but I'm not. Actually, what a great idea. So I do. I get the knife and fork, and I'm sitting there. The old man's behind the paper. My brother's watching, and I'm going. Clink, the newspaper comes down, and my dad goes, well, you know how he goes. He goes, the noise. But not before my brother on the other side of the table is going, the noise. Like that. And my dad's hand was caught in midair going, the. And he's looking across at him going, the noise. Well, with a brother like that, he was showing me all these things, and I thought, wow, this is fun. I thought one day he's going to be this wonderful sort of comedian bloke, but he didn't. In the end, he became a fossil. No, I shouldn't have said that. No, he came to look after fossils at the Natural History Museum in London. He looks after. How do you look after a fossil? It's just a stone. I remember once going into his room and there were 4 fossils on the shelf. I said, Brian, what are you doing? He said, I'm looking after the fossils. I said, they're not going to jump off the shelf, are they? He said, yeah, thanks to me, yeah. That's right. I went in 40 years later, the same fossils, they were still there. I said, Brian, the fossils, they're still there. And he went, yeah, thanks to me, you see. If ever you find a fossil, loads of fossils in Wales, if ever you find a fossil, you don't know what it's called, and you pick it up and you say, Melanie. Oh, no, that was in the other one. That's right. Dave. Oh, he was in there as well, wasn't he? Yeah. Melanie. And the fossil doesn't answer. You can take it to the Natural History Museum. Yeah, you can take it to the Natural History Museum. You walk in, you go in there, someone in a uniform, and you say, I found a fossil, and I've tried. I said, Melanie, it doesn't answer. You say, Dave, it doesn't answer. They send for Dr. Brian Rosen. Yeah, my brother. And he lives in a cave underneath the museum, and he wears a leopard skin bikini, and he's got a big club. And you're sitting there waiting, and suddenly the double doors open, and there he is, with his big club like that. And you say, excuse me, I found a fossil, and it doesn't seem to be got. Melanie, you say, it didn't answer. Dave. And my brother, he takes the fossil, and then he takes a magnifying glass out of his leopard skin bikini bottom, and he sticks it in his eye, and he goes, right, no, that's not Melanie. No, it's not Dave. That is an ammonite. That's one of those curly ones. That is an ammonite. And if it's a really, really, really good one, do you know what he does? Right? Because it doesn't belong to you, right? And it doesn't belong to the museum. Do you know who it belongs to? The Queen. That's right. It belongs to the Queen. That's right. So he'll just take it off you. Yeah, he'll take it off you. He's got to give it to the Queen. If you go to Buckingham Palace, you'll find that it's stuffed full of old fossils. That's the truth. Yeah. So there we are. That's another way of writing as well. You can start. Thank you. That's fun as well. You start with something that's just a little bit true. Or you can start with thinking back to the noise. Think of the things that your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your uncle and aunt say. Maybe people have had little fun playing around with them. Then you can write those down. You can always remember you can write down what people say. Sometimes people forget this. You can write down what people say. You can write little plays, not great big ones, but you can do those as well, of course. You can write a little play set in your home or with your mates or wherever, on the bus, on the way to school. You can just write it down, and maybe there's some repetitions in there. Let's have another question, waiting for it for high vis person.
Over here.
Thank you.
It's not really a question, but my friend asked me to tell you to say that she loves your work, and I wanted to say thank you for making primary bearable.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you. That is really nice. I can't think of anything nicer. When I first started out writing my first book of poems, came out in 1974, like I said, just after the Stone Age, and came out in 1974. And if I thought then that, you know, people could enjoy my poems and so on, well, it would have been amazing. When that first book came out, I didn't really know how to read the poems. This may surprise you, but I remember arriving in a school called Princess Frederica, would you believe, in northwest London, and the man, a wonderful Irish guy called Sean McAlane, had asked me to the school, and he said, "Oh, it's wonderful that you've come, Michael. It's absolutely fantastic. The children really love your poems, and they're waiting for you." And I'd only read my poems to about groups of 6, or maybe just a half a class. But we were sitting in his study, and he said, "And the children are waiting for you." And he opened the door, and there was the whole school, all waiting, okay? And they all went, "Rah!" And this great roar, like, kind of went over me like a wave. Rah! And I was absolutely scared. I thought, what do I do now? And he said, "Michael, read to them." And I opened my book, at the first page I opened, and on there was a poem that goes, "The ship in the docks at the end of the trip." And I was so scared, I put the book up in front of my face. I went, "The ship in the docks at the end of the trip. The man on board is the captain of the ship. The name of the man is Old Ben Brown. He plays the ukulele with his trousers down." Okay, that's how the poem goes. Now, London kids, I don't know about you, but London kids, they give you about 5.5 seconds before it suddenly, all sorts of other things start getting interesting, like their Velcro. And you're standing in front of them going, "Here's a little poem," and they're going, and then they notice each other's hair. "That's really interesting. Wow, that's really good. No, you've got that in rows. That's really interesting. I'm going to do that." And the other person's doing theirs as well. At the same time, they're all in rows going, "This is really interesting." And you're standing there, nobody's paying any attention at all. And I looked across to Mr. McAlane. He was horrified. His face was like this. We thought some kind of live wire guy was coming to the school and was going to really give the kids something that would enjoy it. And so he looked, saw the Velcro going, and he went, "No, it doesn't go like that, does it, boys and girls?" And they all roared back at him. "No! Shall we show Michael Rosen how it goes?" "Yes!" And then they all went, "The ship in the docks at the end of the trip. The man on board is the captain of the ship. He played the ukulele with his trousers down." And they all just roared and shouted and danced. And I thought, oh, wow, is that what you're supposed to do? Is that, the name of the man is Old Ben Brown, and he played the ukulele with his trousers. He played the ukulele with his trousers. Exactly, and they put in little rhythms, and one half of them did it one way, and the other half did it the other. And I thought, wow, is that what you do with poems? You, perform them, and you, act them, and you do your hands and your face. Is that what you do? I didn't know. Mr. McAlane, big round of applause for Mr. McAlane. Where is he? I don't know. Maybe he's still there, hovering over Princess Frederica School in Kensal Rise. So I'm very glad that your friend likes those poems, and part of that is down to Mr. McAlane. Ship in the docks at the end of the trip. The man on board is the captain of the ship. The name of the man is Old Ben Brown, and he plays the ukulele with his trousers down. Lovely, thank you. Okay, we've got another question. This will have to be the last one.
Can you tell the story of Chocolate Boy?
I might have to do this at kind of breakneck speed. It might be what's called a cut-down version, which is quite appropriate for a cake, isn't it? When I was a boy, I had a favourite treat. I had a favourite treat, and my favourite treat was when my mum made... I love chocolate cake. My mum, she says to me, "Listen, if there's any chocolate cake left over at the end of the day, you can take some to school to have at playtime." So I used to go to school, had some chocolate cake, little box. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's so good, yeah. I'd get to school and I'd open it up like that. And, yeah. Oh, that's so good. Oh, a little bit dribbly. It's so lovely. And they go, yeah. Yeah. And one time there was some chocolate cake left over, and I went to bed, and I was lying in bed fast asleep. But then, in the middle of the night, I woke up and I thought, chocolate cake. Maybe I could get up and go downstairs and have a little look at it. I'm not going to eat any, just going to have a little look. So out the bed, shh, mustn't wake my brother up, out the room. Careful not to tread on the creaky floorboard outside Mum and Dad's room, because if I tread on that, it's big trouble, so really careful. Don't tread on it. It's okay, they're still asleep. On downstairs, into the kitchen, over to the cupboard, and no, shh, I mustn't make a noise. They're upstairs. Get it out. I'm just going to have a little look at it. Not going to eat it or anything. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, look at that. Little crumbly bits there. I just got, and then I noticed some little crumbly bits on the side of the cake, so I think if I take a knife, I could just tidy it up a little bit. Scoop it together. Yeah, it's all going to go in there. I love that. And then if I've tidied it up a little bit over there, I'm thinking, well, I could just even it up a bit over the other side. So I take the knife through the crispy icing on the top, through the squashy icing in the middle, whole slice this time. Yeah, chung, chung, chung. It's all going to go in there. I love it. And now I've got the taste of chocolate cake in my mouth and I can't stop myself. I take the knife and I go, psh, 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 psh. Yeah, wow, I love it. Oh no, it's all gone. Oh no, I'm bound to get into trouble now. What am I going to do? I know, I wash up the plate and the knife, I put them away and they won't know anything at all about it. Good thinking. Take the plate and the knife, psh, on the drainer, psh. Yeah, take the cloth, into the cupboard, yeah, and the knife in the drawer, and back up to bed. Along the passage, I know where the creaky floorboard is now, so all I've got to do is step over it, because if I tread on it, I am dead. They're still asleep. It's okay. On, into bed, under the covers. Nice warm feeling, chocolate cake in my belly. Goody, goody, goody. And I go off to sleep. In the morning, I get up, I go downstairs. I'm having my breakfast, and Mum is really busy over here, and she's busy over there, and I'm having my breakfast, and she says, Michael, don't forget your book folder. She hands me my book folder. I carry on. And then she says, oh, yes, and there's something else nice. There's some chocolate cake left over from yesterday for you to take to school today. And I went, no, it's okay, it's all right, it's all right. And she says, what's the matter? You usually jump at the idea of having chocolate cake. I went, no, it's okay, it's all right. And she's looking at me very closely, just here. And she points at it and she says, what's that? And I said, what's what? She said, what's that there? I said, what's what where? What do you mean? She said, it's not chocolate cake, is it? And I went, oh. And she went over to the cupboard. It's gone. The chocolate cake's gone. You haven't eaten the whole of the rest of the chocolate cake, have you? And I said, I don't know. You don't know? You don't know if you've eaten the whole of the rest of the chocolate cake? I don't believe you. That's the last time you ever have chocolate cake to take to school. Do you hear me? And I said, And she said, off you go. No, before you go to school, go upstairs, go to the bathroom and wash your dirty, sticky face. I went upstairs to the bathroom and I saw it just there. The chocolate blob, the chocolate smudge. I looked at it and I thought, maybe next time we have chocolate cake, she'll forget about it. Do you think she will? How many here have got a mum who will forget about it? Excellent. How many of you have got a mum who'll remember and remember and remember? Yeah, that's about 2/3 remember, 1/3 forget. My mum was brilliant at forgetting. That's why I'm what's commonly known as a spoilt brat. Thank you. I must go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh!